So you and I were just talking over coffee about our kids and parenting, as we often do, and just life overall and relationship and whatnot. But this concept that Colin breaks up of what is your Everest? And so here's a guy who is going after the normal path of life and then decided just to go kind of pursue his dreams in essence, which sounds from the self-help world, so kind of pithy. Go, follow your dreams. And
right. Is he married? Does he have kids?
yeah, and yeah, you asked that, but it did. I started the show off kind of saying that. So here are your kids right now. I mean, you've got your three, and I've got my bunch, and we're kind of seeing what direction are they going to go. But where do we get to the point of saying, yeah, you're doing stuff you enjoy and having fun, but at some point you just be responsible, get a place to live, get a job, and start doing the day to day, and let those things go by. I know
it sounds terrible.
It does, but that is so much of what we do, and that's kind of what he's pulling us to, as to what is that thing that you wanted to do as a kid. Though I'll admit, on that topic, I am concerned that more and more we have people who never really did have a dream. They don't really even chime. I never had something I was really, eager to do. They just kind of did life, watched some TV, and went to school and got a job. So there's not some big thing out there, and you just kind of go along. And so for some, they need to manifest what do I want to do if I'm not just happy doing the day-to-day grind.
Is there, well, this brings up is it even feasible that everybody does actually have an Everest? And I would push back a little bit to say, if everybody had an Everest, then Everest wouldn't be Everest.
Oh, you're getting grandiose, I feel like, though,
because that's what Everest is. You just said, dream means grandiose.
Okay, well, bring it back to purpose then.
Okay.
I mean, what is my dream? I don't know that what did I have a dream to do? Be a top podcast. I never had that as a dream. Did you have a dream of, I want to be a doctor?
No, but I think I would resonate more with Martin Luther King. I have a dream.
Okay.
Right. And it wasn't Mount Everest. It wasn't whatever. It was purposefulness, meaningfulness of ideas, of philosophies, of influence, of impacting people.
I would say, for the sake of the conversation, that's Everest. It is that purpose. What is it? Because you could have, when you asked the question or kind of posed that, I thought, let's take two nurses in the hospital, and one of them is there to do a job. She went that direction. It's what her mom did, or somebody went and did it.
And the other one is Florence Nightingale.
It is their Everest.
Yeah.
Their dream is to go and do that. We have a friend who was a fighter pilot, right? Wasn't he and now he's a nurse, Jeff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He was a fighter pilot.
He's a fighter pilot.
And now he's a nurse practitioner.
And decided, I want to go do that. And I don't know his specific story, but he didn't go after it thinking this is the most lucrative job. I think he really wanted to do that. And for some reason, it fulfills a dream. So in that context of, we could have somebody, their Everest is an everyday job, but to them, for whatever reason, has great purpose.
And that's very hopeful.
Yes.
That is, and even Jeff would say, probably when he was 15, he wanted to be a pilot. That was his dream. And then he did that. And then life went on, and actually, when having known those guys in the Air Force, once you're there, then you're like everybody else. Like we say, oh, fighter pilot, because we hardly know any of those people. But if you're in a squadron, then everybody is a fighter pilot, and it's kind of just the job.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, here he is, and he says, I'm going to become a nurse. And because his inspiration was functional medicine, was helping people down that pathway.
Yeah.
The ideas, the influence. And then that became a dream that had to fuel him through hard years of school and all of those kind of, another commitment, just like he did when he was 20.
Yeah. And so to that degree, can everybody have an Everest? Yeah, I would hope that
sure.
Every one of my kids, so I got 9 kids, that they would all find an Everest. And one of them might go climb Mount Everest or become a fighter pilot or an astronaut. And the other may decide to, because of a circumstance, like my oldest son is working at a hospital because he spent so much of his life in a hospital and with functional medicine, that's what inspires him, and he wants to be in that demographic of, or,
Mhm.
of career, that type of career path of helping people. And that can be his
His
Everest to a
Everest.
degree. And have some fun things that, there may be some bucket list type things too, that where he says, I also want to go live in Thailand for a month, some fun things, some kind of big adventure things that are part of that as well, that are inspiring.
Can't each of those be an Everest?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
And
so.
can't we have an Everest of, like, in True Life Medicine, we're doing this, we're doing these challenges, right?
Yeah.
So then there was the walk challenge, and then we just finished the squat challenge, right? Like, get everybody on a video and do however many squats you want to do per day. And at the end of, a month, then there's, I forgot what it was, 25,000 squats that people did. And we say, well, we got all the way to the moon, right? Like something along those lines of, for each individual person, 20 a day is an Everest for an 80-year-old. And the purposefulness behind it is not, you're going to be able to go climb Mount Everest when you're 80, but it is the mindset, the attitude that would equal, you're way less likely to break a hip.
Yeah.
And way more likely to enjoy, to have contentment and peace in your life.
Well, and it comes coming back to our kids again. Would you have any of your three boys who you would say, you know what, you go after the big thing. You're gonna be an astronaut. That's your interest. Let's get you going that direction. You, buddy, probably just find something to get by, and just, pay the bills, make ends meet, get some money saved, and just,
Maybe you'll get a Volvo.
just make it. I mean, we would never think to do that,
No.
but we relegate ourselves to that. And, that whole idea of go after your passions or whatever. But should it just be, where is that thing that inspires you to be excited in the morning when you wake up and look forward to it? I've thought recently about you and me and the word curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
that I think we wake up every morning, and I'm so grateful that I'm curious about, and you're going to go pick up the next book. You had one today on belief,
Mm-hmm.
and it could be something on the gut,
Mm-hmm.
but you're always doing that. And I'm doing a similar thing with very similar, ideas that I'm pursuing. And I have people on the show. Let's talk about it and learn more. And I love that curiosity. Is that an Everest? To a degree,
To a degree.
it is. It's a purpose and an inspiration, and having the fun things. Like I did a mountain bike race, recently. And you look at travel and some things, those things that inspire us. But is there a morning that should happen where we don't have something that we're really looking forward to, which is defined? I think it was Tony Robbins said the happiest people are those who are just making progress in something.
Yeah. Who are curious about something, learn a little bit more about it. That's progress.
That's progress. So we take that concept, and I think that is one to grapple with for us all. To, if you're commuting right now or you're working out or whatever, to go, are you okay in the day to day? Are you just passing time? Is there something of purpose that you could consider pursuing and be involved in? And to that degree, I would hope that that would be a yes, but it may be a big effort for a lot of people.
So interestingly, again, and so through my frame of reference in the clinic, as we are starting with people at point A and trying to get to a definable point B, and my question to people will be, okay, Kevin, a month ago, and even your family member, right? Like 2 months ago, it was misery of my gut, this and that and the other. And now here we are a few weeks later, a little bit better. And I would say, well, is your state right now, are you content? And she would say, no, I'm better than I was, but then let's keep going. I am curious. And I hope you're in her situation, there was more desperation. I am desperate to get out of a bad and towards a good. Well, I'm curious to know what this supplement would do, or this medicine, or even if you had, and when it comes to the gut, it's like, can you put your mind in this frame of reference for a few minutes a day? And then 6 months down the road, I would say, are you content? Are you okay with your, in this case, gut? Somebody else, it could be your back. Somebody else, it could be your blood pressure. Are you okay to leave it right here? And my point of bringing all that up is people get stumped. They can't answer. They don't have a frame of reference to say, I'm okay. I am good. I'm at maintenance level. They,
I love the
they
question
it
of
gets underneath.
content. Now, you can play with that because I look at satisfaction and
Yeah.
content. You can
Peace.
kind of play with those words.
Uh-huh.
Am I, daily, I feel that my call, even as unto God, is to be to some degree satisfied. You can take either word, is to be content with the now, with, I mean, that's where peace is. I don't want anxiety right now. I want contentment and that things are okay now, and to be striving
Yes.
towards something. And so that question, are you content with everything that you have today? Well, that's one question.
It's kind of yes and no, because I want to strive towards something a little bit more this or that.
Yeah. Well, do you
And
want this day every day for the next 6 months, year, 10 years? And I would say, no, I kind of like to evolve and progress.
yeah, but if I
Achieve.
said, are you content with your liver function right now? You would say
Okay.
yes, because you don't have, but if your liver function was harming these other things,
Yeah.
right? Like, if you ask me, am I content with my mountain bike performance right now? I'd say sure, which is close to zero, right? And you're,
Right.
99% better than me. And you might say, no, I've got 10 more trails I want to do, and I want to go faster and this, and that's you. And that's your Everest, or one of them. And for me, it's going to be something else. And like with John, I would, are you content with the books you've read? And he'd be like, yep, don't need any more. And I've read way more books, but I'm not content.
Not content. Well, I think it's a good, so you mentioned, yeah, I won't out her, but so I have a daughter who's, a lot of people will relate. She has, I mean, she knows functional medicine. She's eating well, she's exercising, she's doing seemingly all the right things, and is wrecked. Her guts bloated and stopped up. I mean, just miserable, literally miserable, especially in relation to the vitality that she has experienced. So she is not content right now. Literally in her life, her greatest Mount Everest is just to feel good.
Right. She is discontent.
She is discontent.
And another word we could use, she is not at ease. She is diseased.
Yeah.
Disease.
That's great. And she is investing time and money to fix it. And I was, as you texting her late last night, with your help, she's hopefully
a little bit better.
Oh my, and she's
but not content. Excited.
Yeah.
Hopeful. And we could even throw that word curious in there. She is curious enough to spend time and money and effort to get back to what she has known as a better form of contentment, a better form of peace and satisfaction, and also to give her the kind of stability and wherewithal to then have a different kind of curiosity, because she's going to go off and read and study and do and work and whatever she's going to do in her life. And she can't be curious over here because she's stuck over here. And that's where I think when you're contemplating, son, I just need you to go off over here, get a menial job, be sort of mediocre, have a decent car, decent wife, decent whatever else. So many people, nobody aspires to mediocrity, and in my world, so many people get hamstrung by dis-ease or discontent or dysfunction that there's a stuckness of what then becomes menial.
That's great, and it disables them from even considering a Mount Everest or an Everest for that. So if my daughter wants to do X, she wants to over here be an astronaut. Right now, that is so far removed as an Everest type thing because she feels so bad. She's got a ways to go. She's going to have to get healed.
Yeah, out of self-preservation, she's not going to consider being an astronaut because that would just be disappointment.
Yeah.
You said the word disabled. That is a really, right? Like we have this disability kind of awareness, but when you are disabled, like I am disabled when it comes to mountain biking compared to your ableness. But I don't have enough curiosity to make myself go harder down that pathway. But I don't feel disabled to do what I want to do over here because my tummy feels bad and stuff like that. But I can relate, like we've all had dis-ease and brokenness and disability, some way more than others. And here we're all on that spectrum of things, as we say so often. And And so for her right now, Everest is just to feel better.
It has me thinking of the and then it's somewhat elementary as you talk about goals and type thing. This is not rocket science, but it's an interesting perspective. Back to Collins, what's your Everest? That you have the tendency to think of that ultimate Everest, but on that way, there's probably going to be 10 other Everests that you need to meet on the way. So what are they? Right now, she's saying, okay, here may be this big goal. She wants to go do this. She's looking at moving to another city and starting a business and whatever. But for the first Everest, get my tummy feeling well, because I just can't hardly think. And then one after that is, once I do that, then I have the capacity to put some ideas together, to take action one, action two, this Everest, to get to that one. I think it's relevant because it helps us. It's kind of the, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? I am inspired by putting the big Mount Everest out there. That's what inspires me. I think and that's my personality style. Some people that's going to overwhelm. So
I was going to say, don't you think that even for the vast majority of people, it would be like, well, I'm done before I even get out of the gate, because it's not possible.
Yeah.
And so like, I appreciate Colin's, what's your Everest? Well, it doesn't feel so good to say, well, my Everest is walking around the block like that. A majority of people might say, well, so nobody's going to come out there and say, or even in their own mind, they're not going to say, that's my Everest.
Yeah. It's a step towards possibly that Everest.
Right. And certainly on the medical side, we have that too. Like, if you just got out of a car wreck, then walking around the block might be the very thing. And somebody said, instead of saying milestones, we called them foot pebbles.
Okay.
What's your foot pebble today? And foot pebbles lead to milestones.
I'm you've got me just thinking about the word content. I mean, what a great audit. Just say, am I content? Am I content today? And people should be able to answer to some degree, yes or no. I mean, maybe things are okay, but then are you content with this day being the same again, 6 months down the road?
Don't you think this goes back to our coffee this morning? It was like, Kevin, the answer is yes and no.
Yes and no. It probably should be. I'm giving value just to the question. And that's really what Colin, and it's interesting you say walk around the block. His book is titled The 12-Hour Walk. And so you and I haven't discussed this. His concept really came through. So he's, does Antarctica, treks across it, sets his record and whatnot, and then comes back to regular life. And then COVID hits and he's just like us. He's at home. So here's your world record explorer. And he's sitting on his butt at home with Netflix and just kind of in the doldrums, and tells his wife, he doesn't have kids, but he's married, and tells her, I'm going to go for a walk all day. I'm just going to go, and coming from a guy who's done Everest, I guess it's not that out of the blue, but he said, I'm going to go all day. And for 12 hours, he's out walking.
Yeah. 7 a.m. Starts
walking, not a goal destination, a distance. This isn't an exercise effort to achieve or perform something. It's just to be out. And for him, it was a mental reboot. In which you and I have talked about. It was a way to to meditate, be present, whatever, just to get the cobwebs out and reboot.
I like that.
I kind of back to our not relief, but renewal, recharge, and reboot. You and I talked about that, and I brought it up with Colin, that concept of every day. Last night I plugged my phone in to recharge it. Battery's low. We do that. But then every once in a while it says, hey, you've got a new OS operating system, and it shuts everything down. Takes a while to reboot. When it comes back, it actually has more capacity. It took care of some bugs, fixed some things, and has more capacity. When do we do that? And as you know, we just seldom don't. We just day to day go on and hope that there's a little progression every day. When do we stop? And so he's calling us to this 12-hour walk. Now you could say 2 hours out in the woods or whatever, but when do we do that reboot? And this is a way that a methodology of doing that, to let us consider these questions. When do we stop and take one day, half a day, and just contemplate, what am I doing and what do I want to do? It's so countercultural to our harried, busy. It's kind of beyond, we're talking beyond distraction. I mean, this is but it's so small too. It seems so monumental, but it's so small. A day.
So I do, in fact, I'm going to do that.
I told him that I would tell you, and maybe we would just.
I want to do a 12-hour walk. Like,
he's got a day that he's calling, just to give everybody a timeline. We could all do it on September, whatever. But I also told him how interesting it would be, even if you found one friend or two friends or whatever, and just say, we're going to do it. We're not doing it together, but just we go do it and have the accountability of that.
Yeah.
And then share the experience and go.
It's like we did the squat challenge, through TLM. And why not do that every day? It's the bothness. We do that. If you ever sleep is a kind of a reboot if you have good sleep. And one thing I've been really challenging myself and people on is to calendar a mini sabbatical.
Yeah.
And so that is kind of we
had a friend, Todd, he just went and did a few weeks ago. He went to the monastery for 2 or 3 days.
2 or 3 days, right? It was a silent monastery too.
Silent monastery. There's other people there, but you don't talk. And I think there's not Wi-Fi and whatever. And
right, it's a disconnect. In that book I referenced a while ago, The Comfort Crisis, where these guys go to Alaska, where even if you have a phone, it's not connected to anything because there's nothing there. And even so, when your phone runs out of its batteries, which it will, and you're going to be there for a month, what do you do? Because since you're living out of a backpack, you don't bring a book. And so you sit there with your brain. And when you're waiting for caribou and they might be 50 miles away for 12 hours, you sit there. And just that rebootness of it, of nothingness in that sense of pulling us out of, and you said the word distraction, we're so harried, we're so distracted. And a 12-hour walk would be a big sabbatical, right? Like a reboot kind of a thing. What Todd did was a 3 or 4 day silent retreat. Every day I would argue there ought to be a calendared 3 to 5 minute reboot.
Yeah.
Where, like when we were talking about, are you content for 3 to 5 minutes per day? You choose to say, yes, I am 100% fully content right now. And then I'm going to flip the page in my mind and go to, but I'm so curious about a 12-hour walk. Let me contemplate, what would that be in my life? And what would I do? And how would I, like right now, I better calendar my September, October time to say, hey, Marcy and family, I'm going to be gone on Saturday.
And in his, so you don't know, in his concept is really to do it. You literally go from your door.
I was just going to say, Kevin, you know what I would do? I would just walk your house. And then from your house, I would just say, let me go walk to Todd's house.
Well, it's interesting because I was thinking about, I'll go to this place and do the walk. And he said, anywhere you do it is great. But
from your door,
he has an interest.
How far can you walk in 12 miles? 3 miles per hour. That's a 36-mile round trip walk.
Or you could do 100 laps around our little bitty town, but he's given value to doing it amongst the familiarity or familiar area you are.
I really like
so that you have a different reference point, which
the very next time I passed your house, I would say, oh my gosh, I was at hour 10.
Yes.
And I was so tired. Or I had this thought, and it references.
Well, I thought about you because for the past however long you've been walking from your house here. So here you are for however many years, and you drive how far is it?
Well,
from here
past the school. Well, I do a 2 mile. So it's door to door is 2 miles.
Door to door. So you've been driving that. You've driven it God knows how many times.
15 years.
And all of a sudden you started walking it. You have a different reference point now of the shops that you went by. You probably never even realized what's in that. Like there's some head shop over there I've never been in. I don't know what they sell.
It totally, well, and I stay away from the shop. So I'm walking by people's houses and still roads that I've been through in our small town before. And now I've waved to the owners a couple times, because they're out or whatever. And then I think, oh, that's a VRBO house because it's always a different car there.
Oh, got it.
And different frames of reference.
And now they see you walking and going, hey, all of a sudden he's kind of walking different with this huge backpack because you got a rucksack that you with 40 pounds in it.
Yeah.
And you're walking your 2 miles, 4 miles daily.
Yep.
A different reference. So you're doing that to a small degree, which I would say, to this thing, I'm not going to minimize his call for us to do 12 hours or do a full day. But to your standpoint of, should we not be doing a reboot every day? I remember when you had an app, it was last year or something, and it was a 1 minute pause.
Yeah, 1 minute pause.
1 minute pause. And it seems so tiny. And yet is when you try it to realize I never do this.
Yeah.
Especially today with our devices, we used to at least like get a minute on the pot.
Right.
And now you don't
Or
even do that.
stopped at a red light.
Yeah. Now
Or
it's, if you're stopped at a red light or you're on the potty, it's, you can check a few
check
emails
something.
or texts or
What did I
whatever.
miss?
Yeah. And that we don't do it. So to have this.
Okay. Here's another similar, what he did. There's a similarity to fasting.
Yes.
Remember how we said no American humans go, and 12-hour walk is a long time, but let's say a 24-hour fast or a 2-day fast. And you and I did that a couple times past, 3, 4, 5 days. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Do you have a different frame of reference for
appreciation? And I get to eat today, man. I don't care what it is.
Totally.
Yeah.
And same thing with running. If I had never done a marathon, I did a marathon. I have a different frame of reference for mile 5 forever. And for somebody who, and it's not that somebody, we would say you have to go walk 12 hours or fast for 2 days or run a marathon. But if you don't avail yourself to the frame of reference that almost everybody who fasts for a few days or walks 12 hours would say, that made me a better human.
And in that, so have I fasted from doing in my mind, whatever? No, when I think about this, a 12-hour walk, I think I don't know that I've ever gone an hour.
Did he take his phone on his 12-hour walk?
Yeah, on airplane mode, but took it just in case there's an emergency or
okay, that's fair.
Something like that. And
plus, I mean, you got your scriptures with you. You got,
Well, again, even if you had a kid at home and you need to keep it, on, kill all the notifications and keep one for an emergency or whatever. But still, the idea of being out there for 12 hours with the concept, I'm not going to walk along looking at my phone. So even if I've got it for emergencies or whatever, or
I'm not going to listen to my podcast for
12 hours. Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to take in input. I am here to reboot. And to that point, I'm curious, 12 hours. I don't know that I've ever spent more than an hour with nothing, no input other than, what I'm seeing out in the woods or something like that. I've done that a couple, just sit and be there for like an hour, but 12 hours.
Well,
it's a long time.
Pikes Peak.
Oh, yeah, we were together.
Okay, so
we're together. And we're talking.
This is by yourself.
This is by yourself.
I think you would resonate so much also with that Comfort Crisis book, because we're back to, the problem with the world today is you can't sit alone by yourself in a room for 15 minutes without any other input and without, getting discontented. And the crisis is comfort. Like this too. 200-300 years ago, a 12-hour walk would be like, well, yeah, we do that once a month to go into town to pick up some, oats, and then we got to carry it back for. Whatever.
I was reading the book, and I forgot what it's called. The book, lady wrote it about C.S. Lewis and his ultimate wife. Shoot, I just went blank on it.
Becoming Mrs. Joy.
Yes, Mrs. Lewis, becoming Mrs. Lewis.
Mrs. Lewis.
Yeah. And how often he would. I mean, this is back. They had horses, and did they have cars when he was alive? I don't know.
Yeah.
But he walked everywhere. I mean, that's just, I got to go to school or go to the school to teach. And it was 2 miles, 4 miles. And he just walked often by himself. I haven't read about biography of why he did that, but man, and I wonder if that's it. It gave him time to reboot.
Well, and I mean, culturally, and in having been there, it's a small town, and cars are a pain in the butt more than helpful. I mean, here, right? Like even in our small town, going to Walmart is still way over there. And, then they could swing by the market every day, pick up dinner, and that's what they did. And that's one of those cultural zones, like a blue zone. And we're back to, that kind of blue zone demanded that you kind of enjoy your walk. And now we're in a comfort crisis where, because we have cars, and now it's led to giant parking lots and giant Walmarts and shopping once a week and, shoving everything in. So that I don't have to go shopping every day. So the comfort has determined the way we be, which means we don't walk.
Yeah. Comfort. And to me, just trying to think of a better word than titillation, but it's just
entertainment.
Yeah. It's that I can be entertained every single second with no matter where I am.
Well, my 14-year-old just yesterday he said, can I have Snapchat? And I'm like, well, make a case. I need you to have an adult conversation with me to tell me the benefits and the badness.
Mm-hmm.
So he stewed on that for a few days. And ultimately, as we're talking, I'm like, he's like, well, I need it for communication. I'm like, well, what's wrong with texting? So back and forth we go. And he got to the conclusion and he said, it's just fun. I'm like, okay. So how many minutes of fun are you going to budget for yourself for this? I love fun. And there's this kind of fun and that kind of fun, but to have endless fun, it's open all the time. And that's.
Did you let him get it?
No. Well, it's on his phone, but I have it limited.
Okay.
And I did 15 minutes which severely limits him in his opinion. And I'm like, well, how many minutes do you think you need to have that kind of fun per day?
I will tell you. So my kids wanted to do it with me and put it on my phone. And I spent a couple weeks going, this is the dumbest thing. It's just text. Well, I do not understand this. Today, they use it. Today, I'll get multiples from, especially a couple of my kids. They're doing the play. They're doing rehearsal for this play all day long. They have been for weeks. And they send it to me and they'll send me the picture. Sometimes it'll have, they'll say something in it, but a lot of times it's just a picture, and it's almost like they're sharing their frame of reference of what they're doing. So I see them in costume, or I see them with their group of friends at lunch, and they do that. And I send it back and they see, oh, dad's at the office, daddy's at the, in the car, daddy's whatever. And I kind of get it and how they're doing it that way. And it's just this,
that helps me.
Yeah. Point of reference that keeps us connected, and even to what they're doing. Cause I've done it and just go, gosh, you took a picture. Where are you? Oh, I'm at a friend's house. Or I'll see, oh, he's at the restaurant working, or he's at that. And so I have some appreciation. I was dissing it, but I get it.
Sure.
A little bit.
Okay. That helps me because my older son has it, and it made like you said, it made no sense to me. We're sitting in the car and he snaps a picture out the window.
It is.
What are you doing?
I'll see him now doing it with friends, and they'll make a little face. And it is weird. Still, it's still weird.
Well, but it is their digital native weird, whatever. And we can't completely diss it because we don't understand it. Mm-hmm. And like you said, okay, shared experience, shared context. These days, I think you and I would even say, we had this conversation the other day. Like you and I would say this right now. I think you would say this. When was the last time you sat down to handwrite a letter? Wouldn't that be weird?
Okay. I feel guilty to tell you, I'm hardly journaling anymore because I put Evernote. I got Evernote on my computer and had some thoughts and put that down. All of a sudden I just found myself, I'm just typing away, journaling on there, because I can type so much faster than I can write. But I took away the tactile. Exactly. I did. Yeah. And the slow, and I'm doing it because it's more efficient, and I'm not.
I agree. I have been frustrated with journaling because it takes so long to write down a stinking sentence,
which speaks to our sickness a little bit. So you mentioned the word discontent a little bit. I'm thinking about this 12-hour walk or this reboot time.
Well, do you think writing a letter would be weird? I mean, compared to your great grandpa?
Yeah.
Totally.
I cannot remember the last time I wrote a letter.
He could not conceive of that.
Yeah.
And now here we are
somewhere, but I don't know where it is. It's on a pile. Somebody sent me a postcard. A friend did. I got it. It was in the mail a couple of days ago. I haven't really even looked at it, but he sent a postcard. It says some stuff on it, just a real short thing, but he said, just thinking of you kind of deal. And I got a postcard. It's so weird. Especially because he could have texted, emailed, Facebook.
Right. It took like weeks for that thing to get here.
Uh-huh.
And our frame of reference was, when I went to Germany as a grad student in the 90s, mm-hmm. I used postcards.
Oh my gosh. I was in Holland, and you wrote
letters
and send them, and it takes 2 weeks. I don't remember.
And now it's inconceivable.
And a phone call was like $2 a minute.
Oh yeah.
I think I did it once.
Yeah. I got in trouble because I did call my parents, and my mom said, that was a $500 phone bill we got last month. Yeah. She said, you can't do that anymore.
Well, but I wanted to say that the aspect of, our discontentment to do this as a reboot, to even just consider my contentment or discontentment. What am I okay? I mean, what if somebody was to do this and realize at the end of that time, man, I'm kind of good. I am kind of good. I'm kind of good with where I'm at in life. I am
What if you
pretty
go one step further and choose to be good? Don't even contemplate, am I good?
well.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
that's fair. And I'm just saying,
Yeah.
because if you ask, am I good? You're going to have to come back with, well, yes and no. And I would say that part of the reboot, part of whatever, is to choose to spend some time and say, I am good. I am okay. I'm content. I'm peaceful.
Mhm.
Okay, 3 minutes of that. And now, you know what? I need to get more fit, lose a few pounds. I should do my squats. I'm going to go walk. I am not content totally with myself. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to be content again for a while. But today, I'm going to go on a 12-hour walk and reboot.
Because
Both the bothness of that is valuable.
well, it's interesting because I think on one hand, I had the tendency to think about, okay, before you do it, kind of consider what you want to get out of this, kind of have a goal or whatever. I think maybe you could do that and that would be fine. Maybe I'll do that. Or maybe you just go, I'm not giving it 1 second thought. I'm just stepping out the door and see what happens. I tend to think of it as a time for consideration, for pondering, and yet thinking maybe I'll just let it go and try not to specifically think. That's part of my problem. I mean, I do, because you would think I do this a lot. I went out for an hour run a couple of days ago. I mean, a 2 hour ride is not a big deal, but I'm generally going along at a pretty good pace, and I can fully have my mind occupied with especially a worry or an anxiety, or even just an idea, like the next chapter of a book or whatever, and just fill my mind. I wasn't pondering or considering. I was thinking. I was thinking on a specific thing. Can I get past that, especially with this meandering walk? Can I get past that again to just allow a reboot?
You, yes, it takes time.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, America, we hate. I don't have time. I can't take the time or give the time to something like that, and therefore we don't, and therefore when somebody eventually gets around to it, it'll take a little bit longer time. And remember Steve Smith, and they do their retreat, and they're like, yeah, a less than 3-day retreat is pointless because you don't have enough time to disconnect your heart from, so that you can't even ponder the deeper kinds of things, maybe. And I think that is a consequence of our current society now, is that we struggle with that. But I like
It makes me
that.
think of vacation. You just did a vacation,
Yeah.
but you spend, the first day is just getting somewhere, whether you're
Yeah.
flying, driving, whatever. You're at least spending generally a day just getting to it. Next morning you wake up, you're there. And for me, it often takes that day just to even kind of recalibrate to where we are, what we're doing. And it's really the next day where you're like, okay,
Now it
I'm
begins.
integrated.
Yeah.
And yeah, so to think of this, of a little time doesn't get us very far, to really look at 12 hours. And if somebody's, again, there's not a magic to the 12 hours. What if it's 4 hours? What if it's 6? What if it's whatever? I think it'd be neat to try to do a complete, like 7 to 7 type thing. And on that, you mentioned fasting. I didn't ask him about that. I mean, there's so many ideas.
Did he take water?
I didn't ask.
Backpack.
I would, my intent would be to take water and nothing else, and probably just fast that day. And whether you want to eat in the evening or not, maybe I won't even decide.
Ponder.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to aim to do that.
Okay. Well, let's talk about it.